Good morning. I wanted to check in with you since we didn't get to meet um, and kind of go over what we would have gone over in class. And I made an alternate sort of assignment on here or a slide on here for you in lieu of the exercise we would do in class. And hopefully we can get you all ready for your draft and for the quiz. So just as a reminder, when you're writing your body paragraphs, we talked about T paragraphs, topic, sentence, explanation, evidence, and analysis. In your essay, the evidence and analysis will be repeated. It'll actually be evidence and a transition and another piece of evidence because each paragraph will have a piece of evidence from you and a piece of evidence from Steele. So, but I want to focus on one aspect of evidence today, and first the types, which we've talked about, but then something specific about how to bring up the detail in evidence. So evidence can be facts or stats. You might find some of those in the book that you want to use as your source for supporting your claims. It could be quotes from the book, and these are just generally for any essay. These are the types of evidence, but expert opinion or a point to add credibility is fine. Examples, you're going to use these for the essay for your own examples, and also examples from the text, which are actually quotes. So the examples, real or imagined, what that means is the real is like real example from your life. The what if or imagined is like a hypothetical, like a hypothetical example to kind of make a point. And so those are all different evidence types that can be used. So the quality of the evidence you choose is really important. The next author that we're going to be reading is Ta-Nehisi Coates here, and he's really good at detailed evidence. And so we're going to talk about detail and how much of a difference that makes on the reader when they are reading your essay and trying to understand your point when they didn't experience that thing that you did. So it's really important you give enough detail. These other areas, relevance, accuracy, and coherence, are all important too, and we're going to talk about each of those throughout the quarter, okay? But first we're just talking about detail. So I'm going to give you an example here. This is the difference in detail. This is from a student's paper, and the first one was from a first draft, the evidence without detail. The student wrote, "My teacher would struggle with pronouncing a word, and then she would stare at me because I'm Latina." So while we get the idea she's Latina, and that's the part of her identity she's writing about, we don't really understand enough detail to really feel how she felt in that sentence. So we had to revise, and this is the revision, and you can see like the difference in how how this would come across to a new reader. It says, "My high school English teacher would often struggle pronouncing words in Spanish like cuidado from our book about Sonia Sotomayor. She regularly stared at me, expecting me to help her out or know the word, which made me uncomfortable." So we get the feeling she has, we get the situation, we get an example, all put in there. And that detail really helps illuminate for the reader what this experience was all about. So if you've written a draft or you're starting to write your draft now, which you should be doing, and you're getting to the point about discussing your example, go back and make sure you've given enough detail so that your reader will understand. One way writers help themselves get detail is to use an emotion wheel. And an emotion wheel has the basic emotions that we tend to use in the middle, and then it gets more specific in each area. So like you'll see like sad is in the middle, but then there's different kinds of sadness. There's sad and bored, lonely, depressed, despair, and then even more beyond that. And I'm going to pull out of the slides for a second to show you that if you Google emotion wheel, you can find different ones, and here's one online. So they're totally online. You can download one. Writers often have them next to themselves while they're writing, and so that's something you can consider doing. So this is normally what we would do in groups, and the assignment we would do in groups. Hi, Harrison. Go sit down. You need to sit down. Thank you. And in groups, what you would normally do is look at this sentence below, which came from a student paper, and then add to it. So it says, "In high school, I was picked last for PE teams, which made me sad. I started to believe that I could not play sports well because I was different." And if we were in class, I'd have you in groups revise that sentence to add in the detail to make it specific to a student or a situation. And so I'm just going to show you a couple of revisions that other students have come up with so that you can really study and look at how the the detail makes a difference in the situation. So here are two potential responses that came across from this exercise. The first says, in my first year of high school, I was picked last for basketball team. So then we knew that because I was short, okay, we know then why, which made me self-conscious. We know the feeling. I started to believe that even though I was a strong player, that I could not play basketball well because I was shorter than most of the men in the class. So then we also get the gender and everything else in there. The second one, all throughout high school, I was chosen last for relay teams because I was considered awkward, which made me dread PE class. Now, dread's good because that's not self-conscious. That's just this kind of like negative feeling and not wanting to kind of participate. I started to buy into the idea that I wasn't a decent runner because I didn't look as fit and coordinated as the other typical runners in the class. So this is a really good, you can see from the same, a good example, because from the same basic sentence, we got two very different ones when that detail is added. Okay. And so for your homework, what you really want to do is print out 3 copies, write a draft, okay, between now and Wednesday, and print out 3 copies of it. You need to have at least, to get credit, you want it to be 3 pages if possible. If you want any credit, you have to have the topic sentences and detailed evidence written out. Okay, so you want to have that part written out. You might not have pulled your quotes yet from Steele. Hopefully you have. Try to get that done too. If you don't have access to a printer, you want to email me the draft. If you have Google Docs, if you're using Google Docs, email it to my Gmail, which is on the syllabus. And it's KimberlyCEscamilla@gmail.com. And there's no dots or anything, but you have to get that C in there. It doesn't work. If you don't have copies of any kind and you come into class, there's no point. So you still want to participate, but you don't get points if you don't have copies. So you want to have those copies done. I will definitely make you copies if you don't have access to a printer. And you just want to prepare for the reading quiz, review all those discussion questions, and I'm going to try to go over those best I can today. And then you want to buy or rent or however you're going to get or borrow the book Between the World and Me and bring it to class on Wednesday, and we will go over that in class. Okay? So I'm missing you guys. I wish I was there, and I'm sorry I couldn't come in, but I will see you on Wednesday. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Just text or email. Thanks.